So we're down a man, or a girl, or a, well, yeah.
Young woman?
Yeah, oh, be quiet.
Welcome to the Impact Defense Podcast. We're dedicated to giving you the information that you need to help keep you safe. Now, let's join our hosts, Brian and Jada.
Kylie is down with some sinuses today, so yeah, she will not be joining us for this one. She's been with us for the last few, but
Just us today.
sorry or yay. I'm not sure which one it is for you, so yeah, either way. All right. Today we're actually going to talk about your personal limits. So real quick, Jada, I have a question for you. Have you ever had a situation that has pushed you past your perceived limits?
Yeah, actually a lot. I don't really know because I've always kind of had the mindset of you can go farther than you think you can.
I mean, yeah, I agree. I have too. I think there are those things that really kind of confirmed that. I like to joke with the fact that God designed me without an off switch a lot of times. I just had somebody, so we've had a pretty substantially crazy week. And I had somebody tell me they don't know how I was still going. Seriously, it's like, really, I don't know how you're still going. And, you know, it's that I feel like God designed me without an off switch, so I'm just able just to kind of continue to go and just kind of push through a lot of things. I've learned through little bits and pieces, and a lot of times it's more confirmation of things that I can push past a lot of times my perceived limits. And I'll come up to what I feel like is a limit at a time and just kind of go, you know, just drop my head and keep pushing and find out that, oh, I can actually get through a whole lot more.
Like for me, whenever I feel like I'm at my limit, I'm usually the person who takes it and they're like, well, might as well commit. If I'm going to go past my limits, I might as well like drive as far past as I can.
Yeah.
And so like, there was this one night where my husband had gone go-karting and he has some health problems and he ended up in a lot of pain from something as simple as being just bumped too hard.
Mm-hmm.
Like on the go-kart track, it was a rough track. And that night, this was before we were married, I got a call from him and he is like, I can't do anything. He's like, I can't sit up on my own. He goes, I can't walk. I'm lucky my phone was right beside me. He goes, because it hurts to even reach over it. Like, I can hear the pain in his voice. He's having trouble breathing. Yeah. And so at 1 o'clock in the morning, I go over to his house and I take care of him for a little while.
This
and
was
then I
obviously
realize
before you were married.
Yeah, I already said that.
Did I mention it's been a long, kind of crazy week? So
Yeah. I go over there and I start to take care of him, and I realize that it's something like it's gonna be the whole night. Like, it's not going to pass. And so I start by managing to get him to the car, which I am 5'4" and like just above 110.
Yeah.
And he is like 6'1" and over 200.
Yeah.
And so just getting him to the car was a little bit of a hassle. And then, you know, getting him into my house after that. Well, I guess my parents' house, because I was living with them then.
Yeah.
But I bring him in and I get him laid out on the floor so he can be like as flat as possible, because his body was just not wanting to move. He couldn't sit up on his own. He was in a lot of pain, and so the entire night I woke up every 3 hours to alternate his medicine, getting him water and all of that. And so the entire night, that's what I'm doing. I didn't really hardly sleep because I was just making sure that he was still okay and I didn't need to take him to the hospital. And so I wake up the next day and I had promised to take my friend who couldn't drive to this event. And for me, like, if I say I'm going to do something, I usually want to do it.
I think that's a benefit of good character, or not a benefit, but I think that's a sign of good character, where if you say you're going to do something, then you do it. You know, I kind of, yeah.
He ended up staying at my house the whole day, and then that evening when I was supposed to take her there, I was so exhausted and so tired. But I was just like, well, I'm going to keep going either way, because if I slept at that point, I was just going to wake up in the middle of the night and end up even more miserable the next day. And I was just physically and emotionally exhausted from seeing someone I loved in that much pain. And so I ended up taking her to the event. And it was just, I'm already an introvert, so, like, socializing after being that exhausted and tired just sounded even more emotionally exhausting for me. And so I just stepped outside, and I was over here like, if I sit down, I'm just going to completely fall asleep. And if I wake up, I'm just not going to be able to be safe to drive. Like, yeah. I was at the point where I had to keep going or I would stop completely. And, like, if I had stopped completely, we'd have been stranded there for, like, the whole night. Because I would not have driven in that condition, you know? So I was like, what am I going to do to, like, move around? So I refused to socialize because I knew I would be terrible company. And I probably burst out in tears in the middle of a social event just because it was too much, you know? And so I was just like, I'm just going to start running. And that's something that I've always done for stress relief. Like, I've always just, if I am emotionally overrun, I start to do something. Like, I just start doing push-ups until I'm too tired to think about it anymore. Or I start to run because it gives me something to do. And so I just start to run, and I don't really stop until she's ready to leave. So I was already past my emotional limit, so I was just like, I'm just going to keep pushing myself further and further so that I have something to focus on. Like, so I chose physical exhaustion over mental and physical exhaustion. So, like, my body was already pushed past the point, and I just kind of took it further, but I just ran.
Yeah. And
it helped me actually work out a lot of all of the emotions that I went through, and I ended up coming home in better condition than I left in, just because I was like, you know what, it's okay to be past my limit.
Yeah.
And
you find that your limits are beyond what you think they were anyway.
Yeah. So there I was in flip-flops. Running just because I was already past that point and just needed something else to think about.
Yeah. And
so, like, for me, pushing myself past my physical limit has always been my go-to over pushing myself past my emotional limit.
Well, your brain tells you it's time to stop long before your body will actually stop. And that's honestly how people are built, but people don't realize that a lot of times. I know one thing for me. So I fought MMA. We've talked about that a little bit. I fought MMA, and we did a lot of smokers, and it's basically just unsanctioned fights at different schools and different things like that, where I got to fight all kinds of different guys, and the weight classes were kind of wonky and weird. And there was one time when I actually fought one guy twice one evening because I beat him really fast the first time, and they had some other fights going on, and he was really upset about it. So his guy come over and said, "Hey, would you actually mind fighting him again?" And I was like, "Sure." But anyway, like, my very first really big fight for an actual organization, I get out there, and in the first combination, the guy throws a counter and breaks my nose. And at this point in time, I can't see the dude. Now, I'd already fought several times. I'd already been in bad situations before. And I just have always had that I don't quit kind of attitude. I just kind of keep pressing. My parents called it, said I didn't have good quitting sense, because I kept, with them, it was just a constant, poke and poke and poke and irritate and question and why, and that translated as an adult into being able to push past what my perceived limits were anyway. So I guess there's certain benefits to being a very irritating child to my parents. I don't know. So anyway, I get my nose broken, and I can't see the dude. I don't know if you've ever had your nose broken. I don't think you have, but it really, really sucks. Okay. Your eyes are teared up really bad. You basically just see a very blurred vision in front of you. And I've always managed to get hit everywhere but my nose.
Usually that's somehow the thing that people just don't hit. It's either right in the eye or right on my eyebrow or my jaw. That seems to be where people hit me, or in the lip.
Yeah.
But it's always around my nose, which I always thought was funny, because I was like, I have a relatively large nose. It's like, how do you miss it?
But at any rate, at that point in time, I threw a jab cross. So I was so far away from that jab cross, and I was so far away there was no chance of me hitting him. And then I threw a leg kick after that. I was moving forward with the combination because I couldn't tell exactly where he was. So I was just going to keep moving forward until I actually hit him. and my leg kick landed. And he told me later, he says, after you actually kicked me in the leg, he said, I thought I had to get you to the ground because I didn't want you to kick me again. And I was very much so lucky, I felt like, after that, because I'm a much better striker and stand-up fighter than I am a ground fighter, but if you can't see him, you can't really fight.
I know. I was thinking, when I watched that fight on YouTube, and I was like, his nose was broken. I was like, why would the guy take him to the ground? You can actually feel where people are on the ground. I was like, that was a dumb move. Yeah. But I guess if he got kicked in the leg, he probably wouldn't want that to happen again. But he really did have a better chance if they'd have stayed. If he'd have stayed standing,
yeah. Yeah. And I don't think he was as good of a stand-up fighter as he was a ground fighter, from my understanding. I talked to him a couple times after the fight as well. He's a nice guy. But anyway, yeah, he told me, he said, man, yeah, after you kicked me in the leg, he said, I knew I had to take you to the ground. And he clinched up with me. And as I was sitting there, I was holding him, and I looked, and I'd see the blood drip, 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 drip out of my nose. And I was like, oh, man, it's broken. I knew it right then. But, yeah, he takes me down, punches me some more. I sweep him, take his back, and then end up choking him until he tapped. And so, I was able to win a situation where a lot of times, if you'd asked me beforehand, if you get into a fight, I don't know what I would have answered. If you're in a fight and somebody breaks your nose and you can't really see the guy, are you going to be able to press on, especially in a sporting type fight? Are you going to be able to press on and win when the only thing on the line really is honor? and a win or a loss on your record. That's all that really matters at that point in time. And I don't know what I would have said, but I know what I did, And people may be asking, and I know my situation was a little more like self-defense than yours was, but people may be asking, what does this have to do with, self-defense? Actually, one of the things that we do, we teach, and we've talked about it before, we teach Kyokushin. We also, for our kids, teach sport karate. And be it sport karate or Kyokushin, our tests for brown belts and black belts are pressure tests. Our goals in these, for sport karate with the kids, it is a 4-hour test for black belt. For Kyokushin, it is a 6-hour test. And our goal during that time is not to hurt anyone or beat anyone up or do anything like that. But our goal is to make every individual push past the limits that they thought they could do. I want to, at some point in time, have to look at somebody and have to tell them, you need to keep going. You got to keep pushing, because I know that I have learned more about myself in those times and those moments when I am pushed beyond what I thought I could do in my brown belt tests and my black belt tests and then some of the higher degree black belt tests that I did. It's something about that experience.
I don't know. I think with just how we respond to things, usually being pushed past our limits is a new and exciting challenge.
Yeah.
And that really helps with us dealing with that.
Mm-hmm.
For me, if I decide something's important to me and it's going to push me past my limits, I almost get excited.
Yeah.
Because I know I'm going to come out of it proud of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And the feeling is really addictive. Pushing past your limits and exceeding them, and so it just raises your bar.
Yeah.
I didn't really think about this, but as far as physical limits go, a lot of times it's for fun that I push myself past my limits.
Yeah.
The other week, I was I don't know if it's a state park now or what, but
I think it's
Boone's
a state
Cave Park. And there's all of these different rock walls, and they don't really, from what I understand, there's no signs that say you can't climb things. So I've always been a climber and loved to climb. I spent half my childhood in trees.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever we had the opportunity to go places that did have rocks for me to climb, my mom would freak out, but my dad was always like, yeah. So for the first time, for a long time, we were at this park, and I was able to do some rock climbing and stuff, and I tried a few different places of getting up to the same spot. And there was one right at the mouth of the cave where you go around the mouth of the cave and you go up, and then there's this peak that hangs over. So it's really kind of this wall that you would have to get through to be able to keep climbing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was already in the climbing mood, you know, but nothing had been a challenge yet. It was already easy. But that one actually looked like a challenge, and so I was going, well, I might as well try to get it. And so I start to get up, I start feeling the handholds, and I realize there are not really hardly any good handholds for this way up. And I usually rely on a good handhold to get my feet to where I want them so I can use my legs to get up, you know, because upper body strength is not the best for me, but I'm flexible and can usually use my feet to get me where I want. I was barefoot. I was rock climbing barefoot. Probably not the best idea for most people, but for me, it makes it safer. But I started to try to climb up, and I failed the first time, which of course clicked something in my brain of, I am going to get this before I leave. And then my dad tries, and then my brother tries, and they don't get it either. And so I go again and make it a little farther this time. And then my dad tries, and then my brother tries again. And then the next time, I have this thing where when my adrenaline starts pumping on like a physical activity, and then I'm forced to wait, you know, like wait through them trying, I start to shake. My energy comes out in shaking. Like I am so full of energy.
That's not completely
that I am just trembling. And so I'm standing there, my legs like bouncing up and down, and they're like, are you okay? I'm like, yes, I'm just excited and I want to try again. And they don't understand that. They're over here thinking that it's exhaustion, but really it's an overflow of adrenaline.
Yeah. Because
I know the difference. But I'm going up this rock face that I really shouldn't be able to do just because of my strength capacity. Like, I should not technically have enough upper body strength to make it up this face, because it is really an upper body strength face. The easiest way to get up would be to do a pull-up and then hang on one arm and get your arm around, and then do another pull-up to get up. And for me, that would be really difficult to hang on one arm and get that arm up and then switch and pull up that way. But it was challenging, and it was beyond what I was supposed to be able to do and what I should have been able to do, especially since my younger brothers at this point are a little bit shorter than me, but about my weight, and it's all just complete muscle, because they do a lot of work. They have a lot of upper body strength. They're super capable of doing it, and they weren't able to get it so far. So, of course, I had that extra motivation of, I shouldn't be able to do this, but I really want to.
Yeah.
And so the next time I try, I get up and I just do one pull-up and swing my foot to the closest foothold I can find, which is about at the same level as my head. So I'm using my flexibility to hold myself up, because I can get my feet higher than other people can. And so I get my foot up, and I realize I'm hanging by one foot and one arm, and they are way spread out. So I'm basically just hanging sideways on this rock face with rock under me. And I'm like, this probably isn't the best idea. And then the shaking starts again. I was like, oh, crap. No. Because I was excited because I made it further than last time. And I know I'm not going to be able to get my arm around without accidentally letting go, because how bad my hands are shaking. So instead, I was like, all right, well, make it or break it moment. I can either just drop down and give up, or I can find another way. And so I hooked my arm, and I pulled up a little bit, and I hook my head onto the rock. So at this point, my arm has let go, because the shaking finally got to it, and it let go just in time for me to get my head hooked on the little ledge that my arm was on. And so now I am hanging by a foot and the back of my head. And my dad's just down at the bottom of the thing laughing. And then I managed to get my shoulder up. And then from there, I pushed off and got my entire back on the little ledge that was before keeping me from being up there. And at that point, I'm like, I can make it the rest of the way. And so for that, make it or break it moment, it's just like, you have that moment where you can either decide to back off or push yourself beyond.
Yeah.
I mean, there are other situations where you have no choice but to be pushed beyond your limits. But whenever you know that you can probably do more than you think you can, or you have pushed yourself beyond your limits before, it makes it easier in the future to just say, I can get through it.
Yeah.
Should I be able to do it? No. Is it possible? Yeah. I just have to step it up.
Yeah, that's the big thing here. And that's really where things come back around to self-defense, is a lot of times you're put in situations in a self-defense situation where, you've got to do something, and it may or may not work.
Or it's an uneven fight.
Yeah. And, because self-defense is basically always an uneven fight. And that's the whole point of it. And then you have to overwhelm this person. And you have to push past whatever the limits that you think you have in your head. And I've seen entirely too many times people freeze because they don't know what to do. And another, we talk about anxiety is a big thing. We've talked about it on the podcast. Kylie has anxiety. One of the things that we have been doing for her anxiety, of course, right now with now that COVID's winding down, maybe we can get back to some of it. But like we did like these 5K
mud
runs, obstacle course type runs. She's going to compete again, going back to compete in a couple sport karate tournaments and stuff like that. Just kind of push yourself in a way and realize, and if you have a problem with anxiety, that's honestly one of the best things you can do, is put you in a situation that you're going to feel uncomfortable with, and then push through and finish. It doesn't matter if you win. If when we ran, I'm not a runner. I enjoy doing those things simply because I am not a runner. I have a really bad knee. I played baseball for years, and I have a really, really screwed up knee because I was a catcher. But now, so I can't just run on a regular basis, because when I do, my knee puts me in a really bad situation for a few days afterwards. So, one of the things I like to do these 5K obstacle course races because it pushes me. It pushes me in something that I'm not really good at. And at the end of it, I don't finish first by no means, but I finish, and that's the whole goal. And that's kind of with her too. It's just like keep pushing, because all these things, it plugs into everything in your life. Self-defense is a big portion of that, but everything else. Because if you can push through an area that you think you can't do, that you mentally have a block that says, I can't do this, then that's going to help you succeed through things, all kinds of other things that you feel like you can't do.
I think it sets you up for success in life.
Yeah.
So there are so many people just sorely unprepared for the challenges of life. And a part of that is a lot of people shelter their kids from failure or mistakes.
Yeah.
Or they do the opposite and completely shut them down when they make a mistake. There's no pushing through or fixing it. It's just either giving up or not challenging yourself in the first place. When you constantly keep people on their level, they will always be on that level.
Yeah.
If you never move past it, they never move past it.
And it's not just parents. It's everybody.
Teachers.
People do it themselves, though.
Yeah.
People just say, I have this limit, and this is my limit, and I can't get past that limit.
I know my limits.
Yeah, I hate that saying. I know my limits. I can't do that. I can't get past that. Bull crap. You actually can. You just have to learn the way to do it. So there's that. Basically, what we're going to suggest in this one is we're going to do a really, really kind of weird suggestion for your self-defense. I don't know if you want to say training on this side, the mental side of the self-defense training. And that is, go participate in, compete in something that is uncomfortable for you. If that is a 5K, go for it. If that is some type of obstacle course race, go for it. Another thing I like to do, you were talking about climbing things. I've climbed things, but I've always had a fear of heights. So one of the things that Kylie and I did was we went to a really big indoor rock climbing gym that has really, really tall ceilings.
I love to do that.
It is fun, but I also am scared to death. I'm not going to lie. It's funny, not that many things really, really scare me. I hate heights. And when you're hooked in and you are climbing way up there on the big indoor rock climbing gym, and some of those things are kind of going backwards out over you, it really pushes you. And sometimes you fall, and then you learn to trust the either somebody who's holding you or the automatic holder if that's what you're using at the time. But
I've always been weird about heights, because if I'm ever going to climb up on a ladder, it can be like a pretty short ladder. And I have a very strong aversion to any kind of ladder.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, because they're technically made for you to climb up.
Where rocks on caves are not.
But I would rather, I'd rather take the cave. Like, if I...
Because here's what it is.
But
you see the ladders, you do not see the ladder as a challenge. But the rock wall is. And
no, I'm terrified of ladders.
Oh, okay.
The shaking is genuinely from fear when I am on a ladder. I don't trust ladders. I don't know what it is, but it's like, it's man-made specifically for the purpose of climbing and getting to where you have to go, but it terrifies me.
Okay.
But if you give me a rock wall or a tree, that I can get way higher on that and be perfectly fine.
So I think the point of this here is when preparing for, pushing past our own limits and just
I just have to climb a ladder.
You climb ladders. You go climb really tall ladders. I'll keep climbing rock walls, and we'll both get there. But
yeah, no, I've never had trouble with the rock walls, because if I'm going to a place that has a rock wall, usually there's a harness or at least a big mat underneath me, and I trust those things. Like, I don't know why I trust the harness.
Yes, but you realize the harness is tied to a person normally.
Oh, I've never been on one that was
okay.
I've never been on a belay. I've always been on a pulley system that had it connected to something in the ground.
Oh no, you should.
Or a cord. I did.
We should go sometimes. We'll
okay.
take you.
Well, I'm actually fine with that too, because usually if I'm connected to a harness or just someone who is used to doing the job, I don't know. For me, I've always been okay. Here's the thing. I went on a 40-foot obstacle course. Like, it was 40 feet in the air. Sorry. It was 40 feet in the air, and it was like ropes. Like, there are some ropes that you swing across and grab another rope, and then there was one that was just a straight tight rope that you were supposed to run over. But in this 40-foot obstacle in the air, there are these cables above you, and then a harness attached to the cable. And when I got up there, I was feeling a little scared. Like, I was nervous and shaking, and I just looked at the person, and the only question I asked was, how much weight does this harness hold? I am not a big person, but for me...
You've already mentioned you're 110 pounds, basically.
Yeah, I'm small, okay? I knew that the weight limit of the harness, I was not going to exceed.
Yeah.
But I looked at them and I was like, how much weight does this hold? And it was a really high number, like 400 and some or something. And I looked at it and I was like, okay, fear gone. I now proceed to run through the whole course, because I'm connected to I'm in a harness connected to a cable that's supposed to hold over 4 times my weight.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. I've always better handled being pushed past what I think is my limit whenever I know that there's a failsafe.
Yeah.
But there's not a failsafe in self-defense.
No, there's not. So I think the biggest thing is we're making odd suggestions and saying, go find something that scares you a little bit, but that you're going to live through. Or that, we could even say that, you're 98% sure you're going to live through. Okay? That sounds crazy, but I mean, in all honesty, I jumped in and fought mixed martial arts, and I fought kickboxing. Go do something that you feel like, hey, it's going to push me past my boundaries a little bit. I guess one thing for me would be like skydiving.
I would love to go skydiving.
Yeah, no, the only reason I would want to go skydiving is because it would scare the crap out of me.
Oh, no, me too, but it would jump my adrenaline up. It would be awesome.
But it would,
I am a slight adrenaline junkie, so, I guess pushing past my limits in those areas is kind of right up my alley.
Yeah. But anyway, we're going to suggest go do something that is going to stretch you. Okay? We've had a lot of comments on things about how people are afraid they would freeze. And people ask us, how do you get past this? This is one way to get past this. Do things that adrenalize you. Do things that scare you. When you do things that scare you and push you, you're less likely to freeze.
I watched a video of people doing a very realistic knife defense, and they were really putting pressure on it, like full momentum.
Yeah, actual pressure testing, self-defense,
real
also
pressure
well.
testing. And there was this comment on there that in real life, you would never have a chance of surviving against that knife. And I was just
Which is ridiculous.
Which is ridiculous. And I'm
People
looking at
survive
that.
knife
This
attacks
is,
all the time.
but I was just looking like, this is a real problem. People just have these heightened views of all of these things. Like, they think if someone is one step above you on something, so like you're barehanded and they have a knife,
Yeah.
like they think that you have absolutely no chance because they are above your limits.
Yeah. Yeah, and we've discussed it before, and I think we said it before on the podcast. If somebody pulls a knife out on you, you have a 60% chance of surviving. That is better than half. So, Anyway. All right, guys. So thank you very much. And that's a kind of a weird place to leave the podcast. Get out there and do something to challenge yourself, okay? Push yourself. Try something that scares you.
We're not encouraging you to do something super dangerous. We're encouraging you to do something that, like...
that you feel is past your limits.
Yes.
Oh, a little bit over your limits.
Just push yourself.
All right. Well, guys, thank you so very much for listening to today's podcast.
Stay safe, stay alert, and we will see you in the next one.
Hey,
Bye.
real quick, don't forget to visit impactdefense.online.
Oh. Yeah, it's a cool website.
Got a lot of really cool stuff.
Oh, you know what? Pushing yourself past your limits might just be attending one of our seminars,
That is true.
That is very true. Mm.
Yeah. Apparently,
Okay.
This is the ad portion of the podcast.
Apparently.
Bye.
It wasn't planned. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Impact Defense Podcast. If you'd like to learn more about how to keep yourself safe, check out the articles, videos, courses, and seminars at www.impactdefensenc.com. We also do training for security teams, churches, businesses, groups, and more. Stay sharp, stay focused, and train hard.